GRHL podcast, season 6, episode 3. Before we get started, this awesome music that you're listening to right now is being provided to us by Living Illusion. Check out livingillusion.com and Living Illusion on YouTube for more awesome music. Right, Fluxay?
Definitely. Definitely props to them letting us use it, and I couldn't think of a better soundtrack for the GRHL podcast.
That's right. And they were, I mean, we were stealing it before, but now we're on the legit, so sorry about that, guys. Tonight we've got, of course, we're going to talk about the standings and some highlights of week 1. We'll take a look at the leaderboards, talk about some of the faces on there. Fluxay's debut between the pipes, talking about the goalies and the leaderboards and some other stuff with the men in the net. We'll talk about some stuff going around the GRHL. We've got an interview with Nell. I know you're all looking forward to hearing that. And then we'll get to my question, and then we will be done.
Hooray!
That's
Everyone
right.
loves to be done.
That's right.
But before you can be done,
So
you have to start.
that's right. You said it, buddy. All right, so let's get started with the standings for week 1. We'll start with the East. We've got Pittsburgh in spot number 4 with 1 win, 6 losses, and a goal differential of -20. That's pretty heavy right there.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, the reason you're going to see the big differential for them is, in looking at the games they've lost, I mean, it's just been extremely one-sided. And like here, they've lost one game, 8-0. There's a 6-0 loss, an 8-3 loss, a 9-3 loss, a 7-0. I mean, quite a few games where they've been shut out, and the other team just poured it on top of them. I mean, and the games they have won are been pretty close. So it's just they've just gotten handed to them, for lack of a better phrase, in this first week. But that's what they can turn around for the rest of the season.
Yep. And I mean, when it just comes down to letting in more goals than you can score, unfortunately. So
Right.
a lot of shootouts for them in week 1.
Right. I mean, when they've got the lowest goals for as well as the highest goals against. So just need to get some scoring going and get things moving in the right direction.
One interesting thing I'm looking at right here is actually that they've had 14 power plays and they have never scored on a power play.
Yeah.
That is a very unfortunate number right there. I'm not sure what to do with that, frankly. I mean, I guess maybe you're playing a little too or not aggressive enough or something, but that's something's got to turn around there, and they got some stuff to figure out.
Yeah, it's something we'll give there, because I mean, I think Pittsburgh showed during the preseason that they can score and they can win games. So it's just going to be a matter of that, getting the flow going and moving forward.
Yep. So in the third spot, we've got Tampa Bay, which I think may surprise some people, with 3 wins, 4 losses, and a goal differential of a +1. I can speak for myself, or I can speak somewhat for this team, since I'm on it. That I don't know. We just had some struggles. I know there were a couple games where we didn't have the right people in the right positions, and it led to some pretty frustrating games.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. That's the biggest thing with this team is we've had some issues where last minute guys couldn't show up, and you're forced to put a skater in a defenseman position or vice versa. And not only are you might be losing a step on your defense, but you're also taking some of your scoring out of the line too. And it definitely comes down to crush you. I mean, one game in particular, I mean, against Calgary, they all points said Tampa should have won that game, and they lost 7-5. But we took, I mean, just looking at that game, we had 11 penalty minutes to Calgary's 0. So the penalties just killed them in that game. And kind of when you're playing out of position, you might be a little prone to make more mistakes or take extra risks. And so that's the main thing I think that Tampa needs to do going forward is, just get some more consistency from their players so they can, play what they're scheduled and get some wins.
Well, and from the having a perspective on the inside, I can't say another issue that we've been having is unfortunately we didn't draft the correct amount of people for each position, so we've had quite a few um, skaters just kind of one game they'll be playing left wing, another game they'll be playing right wing. Maybe they might move back to defense, and it hasn't really gelled yet. And I think that in week 2, that's something that is definitely going to be worked on, and hopefully it won't be as much of an issue in week 2. So hopefully we can get away from that and finally get a nicely concrete team going on. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that you look at the goals aren't the highest. I mean they're in the top third of the league for a goal scorer, but the goals against is too high. Goals against is definitely too high. But and you look at the power play percentage, they've got the best power play in the league right now at 58%.
Nice.
And the penalty kill is right around 53. So not the best penalty kill, but I mean special teams is doing all right. So they just need to shore up the overall team defense and get things righted with the lineups, and they'll be fine.
Well said. So let's move on to the Islanders at number 2 in the East with 4 wins, 3 losses, and a goal differential of 0. They've scored as many goals as they let in.
Oh, at least they're breaking even.
Yeah, that's you come out as good as you came in, or yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Huh? I think I think the Islanders would be in a little better spot. They ran into some roster issues towards the end of the week there, but it looks like they had to forfeit actually their last 2 based on what I'm seeing on the stats. I know they've had to forfeit against Tampa on Thursday at 10, but it also looks like they had to forfeit against Detroit as well. So I mean, right there's 2 losses that they didn't even get to play for.
Yeah, they could potentially be in a much better position. They could be number 1 in the league, but unfortunately such is not the case, and that's a bummer just for everybody involved. Like I was bummed, and I really was pushing for them in that 10 o'clock game on Thursday that they could find. They just needed one last guy, and it sucks that they couldn't get that because it's always better to play than to get a forfeit win or loss or whatever.
Right, and if they shore up those forfeits, I think they'd be looking to be quite a similar position to how they finished the preseason. So, I mean, that's the thing. Another team just struggling with some personnel issues, and that's what you'll kind of see in the first bit of the season is you got to get things weeded out, and some guys have to adjust to get their availability set and what will work for both multiple leagues they're in. And so that's the thing. I mean, I don't see anything too wrong here with the Islanders, and they just need to get some of the same issues that Tampa has straightened out, and they'll be all right.
So let's move on to Detroit, number 1 in the East. I think that's not really a big surprise with 6 wins, 1 loss, and 18 goals in the positive region. Like I said, no one's really surprised by that, I think.
Yeah, it's what you expected Detroit to be able to do, and which they've done. I mean, they're almost leading the league in goals scored, and they have one of the best goals against. Power play is, probably could be a little higher, but I think Detroit doesn't really need a power play to score goals. So,
very true.
And their penalty kills the 3rd best. So, I mean, that's not a big issue, and the one major point they have is they're shooting. They have one of the highest shooting percentages in the league. So the thing I noticed, at least with the games that we've played in the preseason and regular season with Detroit, they don't take a lot of shots, but the shots they do take are very high percentage shots. They're not just going to throw a puck at the net and hope for a rebound. They're going to look for up across the slot, one timer or to the point. They just always seem to have a knack for being able to get a pass through the defense to a wide open guy that's going to have a really good scoring chance.
Yeah, and I think all that boils down to holding down the A button and circling, but that's neither here nor there. One thing
Pete Magnum's not in this league. Come on now.
One thing I do have an issue with, I think, with their longevity is, again, just like last season, it looks like they're playing their favored team members in 4 games, which is fine. I mean, that's what they're there for. But again, they have a really, really strong line, number 1 line, and then number 2 is So I think with their ability to kind of like either bring out a really powerful line or hopefully mix in a couple of their stronger players with some of their weaker stars that they just have some flexibility. But what happens when those guys aren't available is what I want to see. So
Yeah.
we still got 7 more weeks to go. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I never know. Maybe they wanted to send a message in week one and run the power lines and just,
Yep.
get off to a positive start. So, I mean, right now I think we kind of predicted this going on. I mean, I think, Detroit's probably the favorite to win the conference. So now it's really going to be, it's a race for that second playoff spot. So who's going to, is Tampa going to be able to pull away, or is they going to be running neck to neck with the Islanders for most of the season? And is Pittsburgh going to be in the conversation?
Comeback
So
kid.
it'll be interesting to see how the conference pans out as we move along. But I mean, I think it's going to be competitive, and it'll be a fun shootout, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it'll be really highly contested conference. So let's move on to the West. We've got St. Louis in the fourth spot there with 1 win, 5 losses, and 1 overtime loss with a goal differential of -17.
This is kind of the same trend we saw, in preseason. Excuse me, when they started off really well, and then they hit that slump, and they went on that losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I mean, they started off, continuing that losing streak, and it wasn't until Thursday they got that win. So hopefully, they've had a couple short, close games that they've lost. An overtime loss by 1 goal. They shut out Pittsburgh to get that win, and then they dropped that last game to Dallas. But I mean, they've been close. It looks relatively at most of the games they've lost. I mean, they've only been a real decent separation against Detroit and Tampa Bay. Otherwise, I mean, they've been right in those games. So hopefully it's just a couple, a mistake here or there that they can be corrected, or maybe they had a player issue, or I think I'm surprised to see them this low in the
Me
standings.
too.
I based on the lineup, I thought I'd see some higher production out of St. Louis, and I think they have the tools to produce at a higher level. It's just getting the cylinders firing the way you want them.
Mm-hmm. And pretty much all except for the first one against Detroit, the first game against Detroit, and the weird fluke game against us on Tuesday at 11. They've been well within contention of the other team. It's just
Exactly.
so I think there's just been a couple of lines that were set that probably should never happen again, or some people playing together that don't really gel together. But they've got some growing pains, but I think they'll at the very least their record will start to catch up with the other teams in the conference. So let's move on to the third spot in the West, which is Dallas with 3 wins, 3 losses, and 1 overtime loss with a goal differential of +3.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I expected to see on the first week in Dallas. They're kind of in the middle of the road right now, so things could go either way for them. I mean, luckily though, with the points they did get, I mean, they're right in the picture. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's 7 points. I mean, yes, they're 3 points back, but I think it's a good spot to be in after the first week. Let's take a quick look here at some games. And again, I mean, look, they lost to Tampa, but they came back. They beat Detroit. They lost to the Islanders, got shut out to the Islanders actually, and then just lost to LA, but then dominated Pittsburgh, lost to LA again, and then had a win to St. Louis. So they've kind of had a back and forth week where they've lost, but then jumped right back on track. So I think it's just moving and contributing forward. And I know looks like they've had some roster issues in net where they've had a goaltender not showing up, so they've kind of had a rotating position there with Hab Fan and I believe Rebel actually taking turns in that, and actually both doing well. But that's also two pretty high producing forwards that aren't able to play because they're playing in net.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they could go either way. Really, I feel it could either be tragic and they fall below St. Louis, or maybe I guess they either rise above as well, but they could always just fill that third spot, and that would be not very good either. So
that is not ideal.
It's
Not
very
in
well
this league.
spoken by me, I must say.
Yes, your words are like a poet.
Yes,
They charm me with their excellence.
that's more like a bard. But anyways,
Oh God.
so let's move on to the number 2 spot in the West, which is Los Angeles with 5 wins, 2 losses, and a goal differential of 11. So not bad there.
No, I mean, it's what we expected from LA, and kind of actually in a little bit of a flip flop from them last year. I mean, last year they were known as a high scoring team, but also, they let their opponents be high scoring as well. And this season so far, they've done the exact opposite. I mean, yes, they're getting good goal production, but I mean, they've also only allowed 14 goals, which is the lowest in the league right now. So they're getting excellent goaltending from Drew and Soccer. But based also, if you're looking at the shot numbers that those goalies are facing, the team is playing excellent defense in front of them, which always helps when you're in net, because if you're facing just simple shots that you can take care of, I mean, that's makes your job a lot easier.
Yep.
And oddly enough, I mean, just quick looking at the goalies, they both have 32 saves, and Drew's got 40 shots in 4 games, and Soccer's got 38 in 3. So I mean, pretty identical stats out of their goalies, and I think that comes from having a good team in front of them. I mean, yes, that not to downplay the job the goalies are doing, but I mean, the team is playing good all around defense. That as a goalie,
they're
that's
making
what you
their
like
goalies
to have.
look good.
Anything that makes the job easier too. So
they really only have like one game. Well, I guess if you consider the loss or the win against Tampa Bay 4-0, but one against Calgary 6-2. But for the rest of them, they've pretty well. They've been within like 1 or 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, their major loss was to Detroit 5-3, and then they actually they were shut out by Pittsburgh in that first game, and maybe just had a. I don't know. There's not too much you can say here, because just like Detroit, I think they're having a great week. I mean, they had a great week in that first week, and nothing really you need to do is just keep doing it the rest of the season.
So in the number 1 spot, I think everyone is surprised that Calgary is sitting there atop the pile. Tied, I guess, with Los Angeles. 5 wins, 2 losses, and a goal differential of 4. But I think a lot of people are surprised by this.
I think I thought Calgary definitely had the roster to do well and to have success. It's just we hadn't seen it yet, so now they're definitely they're your top scoring team right now. I mean, the only hindsight is, though, yes, they have that 4 differential, so they're also letting teams close the door on them as well. So right now they've just been lucky enough they've been able to outscore their opponents.
Well, I'm looking at their week 1 schedule. I wouldn't say they had an easy week, but they definitely were up against more often teams that are kind of in their same position. But they did squeak out a win against Tampa Bay, and they didn't allow like Detroit, where Detroit won 8-4, but they didn't allow it to be like 8-0, which if you're gonna lose, at least lose respectably. So, and that's what they did. So I think that gameplay like that is going to help them the top as the seasons progress. If they can continue to lose, but lose while also scoring themselves, so that's a really good trait to have, I think. But yeah, I don't want to minimize their being number 1, but I'm anxious to see what will happen if they have to face like, let's say, Los Angeles and Detroit like in 4 different games in 1 week or something like that. So we'll see how it shakes out for them. But
yeah,
a good starting week though.
Yeah, they just need to just tighten up. I mean, who knows? Is it defense or is it goaltending that's hurting them on the back end there? But obviously, as long as they can keep in chase with Los Angeles. In this early in the season too, it's really anybody's game in any conference. It's really hard to predict, an overall winner. But they're in a good spot, obviously, and I think they'll, as long as they keep this pace, they'll compete for that conference easily.
Mm-hmm. So in the overall standings for the entire weeks, we've got Pittsburgh at number 8, St. Louis at number 7, Tampa Bay number 6, Dallas at 5, New York at 4, Los Angeles at 3, Calgary at 2, and then Detroit at number 1. What do you see happening once week 2 goes by? Do you see any big shifts in the overall standings with some of these teams?
I'd like to think that you could see Tampa jump up to the top 4, perhaps the top 3. I think you're going to see Los Angeles continue in that top 3 spot. I think Calgary's going to stay in that top 3 spot. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Islanders have their roster show up. So I think it's going to be a race between the middle 3 teams right now, New York, Dallas, and Tampa, at who moves and who prolongs. And then I'd really like to see St. Louis and Pittsburgh kind of turn things around and have like get a winning record for those 2 weeks.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think St. Louis might jump up. I hope this is going to sound bad. I don't mean to make enemies, but I kind of want to see them jump above Dallas just because maybe that will give them, kind of steal them and let them see that they can have some success here. Pittsburgh, I think, is going to trail still, but I think they'll get more points in week 2. I just don't think they'll be able to win enough to really jump ahead of anybody else. Those first 3 or 4 spots are going to be really interesting, and I think it's going to be a neck and neck type of race for quite some time. So that is the standings for the league. Let's talk about a very special game that happened. Let's see, what was it? Monday at 11. The GRHL played their 1,000th game between Dallas and Tampa Bay Lightning. I didn't have the honors to be in that game because Canuck is a douchebag, but you played goalie, Flux, in that game. Tell us a little bit about what I guess what it kind of like. Were you thinking about that as you went in? Like, holy, this is like the 1,000th game. That's crazy. Or was it just another game for you?
It was really just another game. It was great to play in the 1,000th game, but really, it's more important to look at it as, it's the first game of the season. You want to have a good start, and the way things started at first in that first period, I'm like, oh yeah, shutout for sure. And then Rebels sniped me over the glove, and I was like, oh, okay, there that went. But after the way the game went, I felt like we had pretty good control, most of the game against Dallas. And after that game, I think we had a lot of confidence. You're like, all right, this first week's going to be awesome. And then reality came crashing down. But it was a fun game to play. And really the score makes it look a little more lopsided than it was. But Tampa didn't really pull away until that third period. Going into the second period, it was a tie game at 1-1. And then Tampa did get a go-ahead goal in that second period. So, it was a lot more tense and exciting than what just looking at the scoreboard made it show. But what helped is there were some penalties that Dallas took, and Tampa didn't commit any, so that's always nice. And I don't know, it was just a fun game, and I've always had fun playing against Hab fans teams, and especially when I know him and Rebel, and when I play against him and those 2 guys, it's fun to play against guys you can shut down or you get competitive with. So that was fun, and it was just it was just a fun game to play in.
And it was just cool to have it be the first game of the first week of the 6th season that it would be the 1,000th game. So that's pretty cool. Nice to see that, and congrats, I guess, to the league for having. It's crazy to think that we've played that many games, but I guess with all the teams and everything, and by the time you have 8 weeks go by.
Yeah, especially when you have 8 teams, you're gonna have 7 games in a week. So times your 8 teams. I mean that'll add up pretty quick, and then we've been doing it for
Yeah.
5 seasons
Well,
prior to
hopefully
this.
soon.
So
Well, not soon, but hopefully we'll be talking about the 2000th game. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that'll be the point when we have Xbox One. So who knows what's going to happen with that? But yeah, let's talk about the leaderboards. Let's see what's going on there, because there's been some interesting things. Some people had some pretty sweet breakout games that kind of put them ahead of the pack in certain categories and stuff. And that's the funny thing about looking at these leaderboards after only 1 week of games, is that, I mean, since you've only played 4 at max, it kind of can be skewed. I mean, if you have one good game, which I experienced myself, if you have one good game, it really throws your stats out of whack.
right, and you just don't know if it's a pace that's maintainable
exactly.
for an entire season.
So our top goal scorers, Duchesne on Detroit, Silent Ninja on Calgary, which kind of surprised me a little bit. Rejected Rapier on the Kings, 9, 8, and 7 respectively, by the way. Chewbacca on Detroit with 6 goals. And Steeler fan, remember me talking about him in the draft? Yeah, he's number 5 with 6 goals as well. So pretty good start to the week, I think. Very respectable numbers there.
Yeah.
What about the people who are dishing up some big old apples?
Oh, it's nice to see. Actually, well, you got a 3-way tie at 10 assists, but at least the way the standings listed, you've got a defenseman, Frazier for Heisman, with 10 assists leading it. So it's kind of nice to see a defenseman doing that. Chewbacca with 10, also Jackson with 10, Emmerich with 9, and you Heavy with 9.
Yep.
In 2 games, only 2 games played, 9 assists, 11 total points. Look at that. We know you can't sustain that, but it's nice to.
Well, and what's interesting is in this assist category, you've got Frazier, Jackson, and Emmerich all on Calgary. So they really sounds like they're playing some puck possession and moving the puck around to get those goals. So good for them. Let's talk about point leaders then. Duchesne, no surprise, and Chewbacca both with 16 points. Jackson Pride at number 3, also with 16 points. So not really number 3, but you know what I'm saying here. Rejected Rapier, 14 points. Frazier with 12. Those 10 assists and 2 goals combined for the 12. So looks like you've got plenty of people out there who are definitely making a name for themselves right off the bat. So some pretty high numbers for the first week. Like to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at plus minus, but nothing really interesting. Yeah,
plus minus. Plus minus.
I just want to know who's.
I mean, it's a team. It's a team stat, and I mean, when you score a lot of goals, you're gonna have a sweet plus minus. So no surprise that Detroit owns the plus minus category.
Very true.
So, you can hit leaders, Emmerich, which I think he's been there for a bit since last season, having a lot of hits. 46, Miz with 39, Duchesne 33, Rendo 30, Devils 29.
The thing about that I like about Miz is you got to remember, well, with Miz and Duchesne, they're both forwards, and I know Miz especially, he plays a really rough game. I've been hit by him before. He's laid me out plenty of times. And I always like to see the forwards getting in on the hitting as well. To see Miz and Duchesne up there at number 2 and 3 with such high hitting numbers really makes my day.
Your day must not be very easy to make.
No, it's not. I mean, when you go work at Target for basically the entire day, it's really easy to be to have your day made after that. So, but that is neither here nor there. So yeah, like we've already, like I said, we've already got some breakout people on both sides of the scoring side and the defensive side. So nice to see that. Oh, just a quick shout out to those who are capitalizing on the power play. Murderface with 4 power play goals, Lindbergh with 4 power play goals, Silent Ninja with 3, Mitch with 3, and Night Bandit with 3. He's stealing your goals, your goals, his goals at night. I don't know. Anyways, so that is your leaderboards for the skaters out there on the ice. But I think the people who we really want to see and talk about right now is the goalies, and Fluxe has those with his little portion of the show called
Yes.
Between the Pipes.
Yes. Be the pipes, be the goal, be the net, be the puck.
The pipes are a goalie's friends sometimes, man. They're like your last defense, so to speak.
Oh, especially in this game, since you can hit the pipe, and then it just drops down on the blue line and doesn't move. Yeah, it just hits that magical force field.
And then you knock it in.
Yeah, you go for the cover and you knock it in. Makes no sense, but that's the joy of playing this game. So
yes.
I think I think it was important to give the goalies in the league a little extra attention, since it is probably the most frustrating position to play in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only is it, you don't really, because of the limitations of the game and the position, and there's only so much control you could have to be successful. I mean, let's face it, if you had to make manual saves, this game would be ridiculously hard.
Yes.
But a lot of times, you just position yourself as best you can and hope EA is going to go your way for once, and you just never know what can happen. So it's important to just look. I think that moving forward on this, I would like to kind of go through the top. I'll give you like my top 3 picks for goalies that week, and then I will give you my goalie of the week. And I think it'll be nice to see at the end of the season, you can see kind of have that goalie of the week, the number, if you have a reoccurring goalie that took those top honors the most throughout the season, it should be interesting to see if that goalie is also stat wise one of the best goalies as well. So you would think it should line up, but you never know.
Now, can I just ask you a question here?
Yeah.
We always have, because of the nature of these stats and everything, we always have, and this will be easier after we get to the minimum games played for the real top 10 leaderboards, but you've always got these lingering people up here. Like I see number 1 is Rebel with 1 game played, though.
1 game, right.
Now,
right.
Are you going to talk about those for this particular?
No.
Okay,
I'm throwing that. Like, I'm going to only focus on a goalie that's played at least 3 games, because at least then you're actually suiting up. Like Rebel, Hab Fan, there's a couple other guys that just play 1 game, so it looks like those are just filling in, and I don't really see that as a reoccurring goalie in the league. So let's just jump in here. Our wins leaders, Tyrant and Drew and Monty Python, all with 3 wins. Manel and Kilobeats rounding up the top 5 with 2 wins apiece. Your save leaders, we've got Dino Executioner with 62, Shifty MF with 55, Tyrant 47, Kilobeats 44, and Soccer and Drew, I'll throw them both in there on the same team, tied with 32. Your save percentage winner, you got Soccer currently leading with an 842.
God, he's not going to live that down.
Tyrant with an 825. Kilobeats and Drew both at 880, and Shifty at a 797. And our good old team defense goal against stat, Drew's at a 188, Soccer's at a 2. Shifty's at a 266, Tyrant's at a 333, and Kilobeats at a 367. And you've got our shutout leaders rather. Kilobeats snagged 1, Drew snagged 1, Dino snagged 1, and Shifty snagged 1. So it's always nice to see. Look at, you had 3 for 5 shutouts in the first week. So
and Drew, Dino, and Shifty also looks like they've been fighting.
Looks like some goalies dropped the mitts here. Yeah, and getting wins too. Only 2 goalies with losses, but Shifty, Julian, and Giroux all snagging wins. So it's time to put on that Schwami hat and try to say, who takes top 3 honors this week?
Ooh, that's tough.
And really, I'm gonna have to go with Soccer, Tyrant, and Giroux. Those are my top 3. Soccer, 2 wins, 1 loss. He's leading with save percentage. He has a great goal against. Tyrant undefeated in net. But I mean, his numbers are just a little bit higher with that 3.33 goal against, and that just down a bit at the 8.25 save percentage. And then I mean, Drew 3-1 with the shutout with an 80 save percentage, but a nice 188 goal against. So now the difficulty is, who do you take from this list, and how do you decide who is the goalie of the week? And
Insert drum roll.
All right. So let's just compare. I'm looking at crunching some more stats.
You're putting him into your flux deposed number goalie cruncher.
Right. And I think even though the goal against is a little higher and the save percentage is down, I'm going to give it to Tyrant. Because, and here's my rationalization here, because yes, he's 3-0, and he hasn't had a loss, and yes, his numbers are a little lesser than soccer is clearly your stat winner, but in those 3 games, he's faced almost 20 more shots than soccer.
Yeah,
and he's faced Andrew combined.
He works harder.
I mean, he's faced more shots. He's only allowed 4 more goals. I mean, he's got more saves. So obviously, if his defense isn't quite padding him as much, and I don't take this away from the other guys at all, but I mean, I just think this week he had a little tougher schedule, and that's why I'm giving him the nod. But props to those guys, anybody that got mentioned in this, because who was not getting mentioned? Me, because that week wasn't good.
You know who else isn't getting mentioned? Me, because I had to fucking play goalie this week, and it was fucking awful. I feel for you guys. Holy shit. Man, that was terrible. Actually, what's interesting, I was looking at your stats, which are up here, and you've played 3 games, and you've only got 28 saves, or 40 shots against, I should say. And I've got 11 in 1 game. Man, you can clearly tell when you've played against teams that really just don't shoot the puck that much. It's a really that's another thing that's tough about being a goalie, is there are some teams that their strategy is to just shoot it at net and see what happens. But when you get those puck possessive teams that 8 shots a game and then somehow end up winning, it really just fucks your stats over.
Yeah. I love a team that'll shoot the puck, and just I think a real goalie, I mean, it does, when you're facing shots, you kind of get in a little groove a little bit, but when you're only facing a shot a period or something like that, I don't know, you're a little tenser, and you
kind of zone out a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to keep yourself interested, but I mean, again, it's 1 week, and we'll see what happens here going on. And congrats to the goalies that played well this week. It's not an easy position to play with the most recent tuners, and just what happened to skaters in NHL 14, being able to snipe the puck everywhere, and kind of all their positions getting gimped a little bit. But props to you guys for still playing. So it'll be interested to see who's going to string together the best record and best stats moving through the season.
There's nothing for certain when you play the goalie position in NHL 14, except for one thing. Do you know what that is, Flexe?
EA wins?
No. The pipes will always be there. Except for when you run into the goalie and the fucking net goes flying. But other than that, the pipes will always be there for you.
Right.
Well, that's a look at the leaderboards as a whole. Thank you for your awesome Between the Pipes content there, Fluxe. We appreciate that and look forward to it for weeks to come. So let's talk about what's going on around the GRHL. One thing I saw was that Giroux is actually writing up a looks like a weekly article of his power rankings of each team, correct?
Oh, that's what you would think, but it's actually a different take on the power rankings, and that's why I wanted to touch it, because he's not just spewing out teams and stats and what anybody can look at from a stat perspective.
Not like
but
what
he's
we
actually he's taking yeah, not just wasting time and content for an hour and a half.
Yes.
He's actually looking at what's happened in the league during that week, and then he generates a ranking system based on that. So he had a top 4 here, and his number 4 were upsets. And he has a nice little write-up in detail on what basically his decision. Number 3 was everyone's favorite, internet tough guys.
Oh God, yes.
Number 2, unwritten rules. And number 1 was goaltending, or in this case, kind of lack thereof.
Yes.
And then he also has what didn't make the cut, which is kind of interesting. The official GR podcast did not make the cut. The replacing the copy guy watched 2014. Color for LaRue hashtag is gaining rapid internet popularity, and some rivalries, some schedule stuff. But this was actually kind of on the preseason, so he hasn't released a week 1 yet. So I'm looking forward to when that makes its way into league media.
Writing is tough, and like I was thinking about making, instead of doing a podcast, doing a some kind of article, and it's just like something about sitting down in front of a blank page. It's just like, all right, what am I gonna write? It's really hard to get into.
It can be a bit intimidating, and you want to have a tone that's exciting and interesting to read and to engage your readers with. I mean, because that's the thing, especially if you don't snag your reader within that first paragraph, they're really just going to skim it, and you're not going to engage with them. So writing's tough.
I was just going to say, and what it's really important to remember is that even though you put a lot of work into it, people are still going to bitch about it, and they're going to think it's stupid, and they're going to call you gay or whatever, but they still read it. And that's the thing, is it's a really, like, making any kind of media for the internet is really a thankless job for most of the time. So I say keep doing what you're doing, because it's definitely an interesting take on a something that we've all seen before, but you took it and did it in a different way, and I think that's hilarious. So kudos. Yeah,
and it's always good to have some more content created by people here, and to create something. It just helps create excitement and some conversation in the league. So,
which is always good.
Yeah. And I do want to say, though, before we move on, if we're going to see an article, come up regularly, I think we really need to see our good pal Joey Caldiero, step back up and start producing some quality content.
What
for
the hell
league.
happened?
So
Did your hands get chopped off?
I don't know if he listens to our podcast, but maybe his buddy Soccer can figure out how to get a hold of him.
Is he like Batman? You have to put like a signal up in the air and he'll start.
I think so. He I don't know what the symbol could be, but
a penis.
It probably could be, or a tea bag or something. But people are getting a little too cocky, a little too comfortable, and now it's probably time for Joey to
set them straight.
Tell how it is, and yeah,
I like it.
So week 1, we didn't see, trades are now in effect moving forward. So we don't have any trades to report yet, but we did have regular summer waiver moves.
Yeah, some moves there.
Elite Doc was released from Pittsburgh. Hadn't played at all, hadn't showed up, so it doesn't cost Pittsburgh any
way to
waiver
sign
priority.
Up for Elite and not show up. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, that'll happen.
I forgot.
And we got some claims moving in. St. Louis picks up Red Wing Freak, who was back in the GRHL, hasn't played since season 1.
He's back in the saddle again.
Yes, he is. Pittsburgh making the most moves, bringing out LaCara, NTG Grant,
names,
and
except for this one,
Messiah 94. So it's nice to see LaCara and Grant coming back in. Messiah, I don't know personally, but I know he's played with other guys here, and he's played in other leagues, so I'm sure he's capable.
Great.
And the last guy is Heisenberg going to New York. And fun fact about Heisenberg, I had a little conversation with him on my executive on call duty. He's actually originally from Grand Rapids area. So yeah, our little hometown here. Chat with him about the area. I think he's about 4 or 5 years removed, but still kind of interesting. I always think to myself, man, I never randomly run into anybody from Grand Rapids or West Michigan too often online, and boom,
there it was.
Got
you
one.
May have actually seen him in real life and never even knew it. at
Oh
at
gosh,
Meijer at the
maybe.
grocery store. Half these people don't know what Meijer
So
is.
no, they don't. So anybody else that's listening that's is only an ECU at this time. I mean, right there's 5 guys that just got claimed off of waivers. So I mean, there's still was it 4 weeks of before the deadline and then before the emergency pick. So still a lot of time to get on a team.
Yeah.
So if you're not on a team yet, don't be discouraged. I mean, be available during 10 and 11. And right now, especially, teams are still having roster issues, so an executive will get a hold of you and try to get you in a game if you're willing to play. So I know that's how some of these guys, I mean, some of these players are past known, but I know like Heisenberg, he showed up, played good in defensively in a game, and now he's on a team. So
It's just that easy.
yes, it is.
Hey, you.
Oh no, we're not going down that
So,
road.
man, I know this is something that we talked about in the podcast before, even starting like our podcast before the preseason even started. We were talking about who's going to be the GM in Pittsburgh, and as far as I know, still GM-less. Yes.
Negative.
Oh,
there has been a
shit.
GM signing, and there, as an executive, I was obviously privy to some information, and there was talk of what players were being looked towards that GM spot. Now the tricky thing is though, now that the season starts, you can't just say, okay, I want this guy as my GM and he gets put on your team, because that's kind of, you could see that as a little bit of an exploit. People are circumventing the draft or free agency, and obviously that's okay to do something like that before the season starts, but when you're in season, you have to have the player on your team first. So I think there was some talk of Lucara was going to be the GM, and the catch was, though, I mean, he'd have to go through waivers and successfully get put onto Pittsburgh's team, and in this case he actually did. But before that happened, actually Iceman became the GM, and I think probably originally why he held off on that, I believe, because he was a GM over in League Sports, the Meebles League, so he probably didn't think that he could do 2 at once, or didn't want to have a conflict of interest there. And now that season's, I believe, wrapping up, he stepped up for that. So we kind of had a feeling that maybe that would happen, and we're kind of hoping that would happen, since Iceman's had past ownership experience here, and it's nice to see some of the old timers teaming up on one team there in Pittsburgh. So
good to see that stuff.
I wouldn't want to run a team by myself.
No.
So I'm glad to see he's got a GM now.
Nice job. Well, that's an example of management doing things right. Now let's talk about some management fucking up, because this is close to my heart, as I am in management. So we've got some judiciary decisions that have been posted, and man, the New York Islanders, they forgot to, it seems like it's always lines, forgot 5 different games to post lines. That is unacceptable. St. Louis forgot 2 lines postings, which is not that bad. I mean, I've done it before myself. That's why I usually make somebody else do it. But and then not coming in with his late lines posted for the for week 1, so that's just not acceptable. So everything runs smoother when everyone does what they're supposed to do. So for God's sakes, just go and do it. You ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just silly. You guys are being silly. So
That's just terrible.
bunch of knuckleheads. So so yeah, but actually, Flux, I don't know if you noticed, but we're being joined in the studio. I believe Nell just walked in, the commissioner of the league. Nell, thank you for joining us.
Hi there.
Just wanted to ask you a few questions about the league and your experience with the NHL and such. So let's get started. Can you give us a brief overview of your experience with the NHL series prior to playing in the leagues?
Well, I actually started playing mostly because I was becoming an Xbox widow. I'm sure, your ladies would probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, he just spends all his time playing hockey or in the stupid league or whatever he was doing at that time. So around NHL 09 is when I think I got my first copy, and we got me an Xbox. And I played 09, 10, skipped 11, and then by 12, I'm pretty sure, is when I joined my first league and went from there.
So around NHL 12, so that would have been in the EHL days then, I take it?
That would be it. That was my first league.
Now, oddly enough, did you also how far into playing of that did you take an ownership position? Because I remember that was I think the first time I ever was introduced to you in Rendo was when you guys were owning when you owned Winnipeg that season, one of the last seasons that I remember actually playing in the AHL.
Yeah, I always have a hard time exactly with like what year was what, but I know for sure Rendo had been around in the EHL for a while, and I was doing my widow thing behind the scenes, just kind of watching what he was doing. So I knew all of you guys way longer, like than you guys ever knew me, because I knew, well, not really you particular, but people in general.
Right.
And so I just said that I really wanted to join something that he was in, so I wouldn't be so left out, and I kind of had an interest in what was going on, in management of the EHL, and I said I want to join, but I want to be an owner. And he talks to the other board of director people, and I applied, and I just got an ownership position the first season in.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always kind of have a thing for being in charge, so that's probably what it was.
Well, from what I've witnessed over the years of the dynamic, it's a good thing you are in charge.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, how long were you at the EHL, or how many seasons did you play or own in the EHL?
I'm thinking it was 2. I think at the
2?
end of the second season, by the third season, I decided I wasn't coming back as an owner. I was just going to come back as a player, I think, and that's when all that nonsense started to go down, where just there was some kind of breakdown in the board of directors over there, and yeah, turned into the GRHL.
So, probably in addition to that, that's about the time that you guys started to come up with the idea of the GRHL, right?
Well, yeah, near the end of my second ownership season there, I had spoken with Rendo. I said, you should just start your own league because all these guys are idiots, and quite frankly, I think you do a better job on your own. And he would always say, his traditional, I'll do it on the weekend, or I'll do it at the end of the season, or whatever his problem was. So I took it into my own hands to start the GRHL. I went to Poison Killer at the time, who was a BOD over the EHL, and I asked him about it, and he was all for it. We talked about what we didn't like and what we liked, and he was going to be actually the first other executive to help me out. And he went and recruited Emmerich, who was another BOD at the EHL. And Poison Killer never wound up leaving, but Emmerich came along, and me, Emmerich, Val, and a bunch of other people wound up, the original executives.
And now you're left with the washed up bunch you have now.
Hey, I am very happy with the executives we have. Everybody does their work. Everybody has a position that makes sense, and that, I think we do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I remember. I think the way I found out about it, I think Heavy, didn't you? I don't remember if you told me about the GRHL first. I think at least I know you had signed up to play. I think before I
Yeah.
did.
Well, I was aware of a couple of different options after the EHL, and I think somebody was bugging me to play at the GRHL. I don't remember who. They were just like, "Yeah, you should just come over here." So I think I played. I think I played in another league at the time and hated it, and it just kind of was like, "All right, this is it. Let's just go start fresh at the GRHL." So
Yeah, because I don't even remember much of that last season of EHL so much that I played. I remember I was on was that the season I was with the Detroit? No, it was yeah, I do. Never mind. I'm getting myself mixed up. It was Winnipeg when I was with Nell and Rendo. Duh. And we had a great team, and then everything went to hell in the playoffs. But I remember, yeah, I got like a mass, just a PM from somebody on Xbox. It's like join the GRHL, and I was like, "What? Rendo's making a league? What the hell is going on?" And I think I was played. I think did I play LG also at that time? Or there's one season I did LG and EHL, and I was like, well, if Heavy's going over there, I don't know anybody else in the EHL. I don't see a reason to stick around there. And lo and behold,
here we are.
And I think that was the last season of the EHL too, when we left, and then they banned all of us for, leaving. And then that was pretty much the last season. I wasn't involved with it because I couldn't be on the site, but I know that a lot of people were, and
Yeah, I think once a couple of the foundations start to crumble, it isn't long before everything just kind of will collapse upon itself, and everyone knows it's coming, so everyone decides just to jump ship right then.
Yeah.
I always just thought it was bizarre that everybody thought that. I mean, I know that Rando's name is in the title of the league, but really, he didn't start this league. He was never like against the idea, but he wanted to wait, and so that's why I got to be commissioner because I got to make it. And I wrote every single original rule. I wrote up all the original like everything that was on the site. That was when I feel like I did most of my work because now I kind of like let everybody else do all the work and kind of stand here and say I'm observing.
Was that something that was kind of fun for you to or was it a chore to write out all those rules and everything?
I think the biggest chore about it was hoping I had everything, hoping I had all the rules. You know, you'd hate to go into it, have a bunch of people come to your site, and you'd be missing like core concepts that are really important. But I really had a lot of fun with it. I liked, I think part of it was kind of a big FU, fingers in the air to the other league. Part of it was just being happy to run something my own way without drama or whatever the hell the problem was.
So even though I mean, it was your brainchild in a way, getting everything going, and then obviously I know naming things is always a pain in the ass, especially when it comes to a hockey situation. But you still let Rendo have the namesake, huh?
Well, I felt like, at the time, like back when I was in the EHL, I think my position was Rendo's wife. I never, like, I was Nell, but I really wasn't my own person. Everybody just saw me as Rendo's wife, Rendo's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And even as an owner of my team, he was on my team. So, well, he must be picking the team for blah, blah, blah. So it was just nice to come over here, but he still had the name. Everybody knows who Rendo is. Nobody knows who the hell I am. I'm just some person.
Gotcha. Gaming Nell, I mean that has appeal to it. I mean, it's not as good as Gaming Flexe, but I mean,
Oh God.
Oh my God, if Rando had his way, everybody would be gaming something.
I do. My favorite memory though about that time period though is right when I think it was right during the first season, and then there was still EHL was still trying to organize, and they still had their little pissing matches with Rendo, and they were, all. I think that's probably right time when you guys were getting banned too, and they were all pissed thinking he was stealing all their players, and then he would always wear his player jersey. Was it
Gaming Rando.
GamingRendo.com or something sign up and.
Well, luckily, because GamingRendo.com, that was his original site, and it had nothing to do with our league. The league came later. He had his Gaming Rendo, which he doesn't ever update or anything, but so now really the GRHL is our little baby site versus this other one, but
Well, he just needs to get involved in another Assassin's Creed game and churn out a guide and get that fat
get the checks rolling.
ad revenue.
Get the checks rolling.
Get that man a job.
So now that we have just started our 6th season, what are your thoughts on how the league has developed? Has it gone the way that you kind of pictured it, or has it become? Because I know as the seasons have progressed, more people get their fingers in the cookie jar, so to speak, and it kind of becomes everyone's league, so to speak.
Absolutely. I mean, things have changed dramatically. I mean, our first season was kind of a wash. You don't want to say that, but it really was. It was just a starter. Everybody get your feet wet. We'll find out who's here to stay, who's here to help us out, who's here to cause trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since then, we've had people like Tyrant come in with the whole token system, which changed, obviously, the whole face of what we do here now. Just each owner that comes in and brings their own input, as much as it's every finger in the pie, we still keep our chefs in the kitchen up above to keep things settled. Otherwise, we would have every finger in the pie and we'd have a very disgusting pie.
Yeah, and it's hard to get things done when you have that many people trying to take control over the situation.
That's a reason why we've been approached by other leagues to do merges. We've been approached by other people to do different kinds of, connections with other leagues and stuff, but we have always avoided it simply because, once 2 leagues merge, you're forced to merge management, you're forced to merge all the commissioners and stuff, so everybody's in charge. And we have fundamentally different thoughts and ideas, and you don't want to share that with people.
Merge, I'd take a buy out that contract. I'm free.
Nice. Show me the
And then
money.
fingers in the air as you walk
Fingers
out.
in the air. That is the best answer to everything, really.
It's the only answer. Yeah, I don't know. I think we usually have a segment, at least at some point, where the soapbox segment during our podcast, where we at least talk on the league and reflecting on it. And I don't know. The worst part now is it's like there's so much uncertainty as in regards to what's going to happen after next season. It's almost like you want to, you want to not so much coast along, but you still don't know. Like, I think we never made a decision, but at least it's kind of come to this. I think that if we do move the league to next generation once that jump happens, I think it's going to stick with the Xbox. But obviously the difficulty, like in your guys' particular situation, I mean, you guys have to get 2 Xboxes.
That's right.
I don't even know how I'm going to get 1 Xbox, let alone I would
Yeah.
have to get 2 of them. So it's I think it's going to be interesting to watch on just across the board of what leagues and are able to jump to next gen first. And whoever gets that jump is obviously going to have snatch at the player base. But
I think that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of people from our league already kind of backing off to play their Xbox One and whatever. So that's obviously, if we're going to go down a road to going to the new console, that's probably the console we'll go to. I mean, like you said, we haven't really discussed it or decided, but it will be really hard for a lot of people, because any of us that don't have the money to get another Xbox, or that don't have the money for this or that or the other thing, it's going to be tough. We're going to have a hard time. Either we're not going to get 2 Xboxes. Who knows?
yeah, I don't know. It'll be a sketchy time, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, that would probably be the saddest way to see something go out, though, if it's just a jump like that. And at the same time, you could be like, well, they're going to release NHL for 360 still. You could try to run a league still on the current gen, but I think again you're going to have so many people. It just stinks because it's going to be one uniform event that's going to segment your player base across the board.
Yeah.
You're going to have some people that may not even stick with Xbox and they're going to jump to PlayStation console, or you're going to have people that maybe aren't going to go to any console. They're going to go back to PC, or some people are. It's just going to divide the player base, which is unfortunate.
And what might help with that too is to put up a poll and just ask people, like, what are your plans after this season with all that nonsense happening? Like, how many people are getting an Xbone? How many people are getting a PS4? How many people are staying with the 360? Just to
Right.
even get a rough idea of.
And the unfortunate of that, though, is you're going to get such a small sample.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, as well as any of us do, you have that same core, there's that core group of, 30, 40 people, and that might be a generous number that are, on the site on a rather routine basis. And I can see why. I mean, it's some people, they've got other shit they want to do. They might be more involved in X League or Y League, and they just use, Xbox to do their communications, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. I've always, in anything I've been a part of, I've always wanted to interact with a larger community, a larger player base. So that's always, always what I've done, even back, gosh, memories of using IRC all the time for like playing Archmage, or obviously the enemy territory community too. I mean, IRC was huge on that, but it's just like you're just not going to get a very accurate sample. I mean, sometimes just trying to get a PM response on stuff I do when I for like the awards and stuff, to gauge interest on that, you'll be amazed at how few responses you sometimes get on things.
That's sad. It's hard to get people to do anything, really.
Yeah, I mean,
in general. I mean, not I just mean.
Well, especially if they're not getting something for it.
Yeah. Well, they're getting the warm fuzzy feeling inside to know that they are contributing to this league. I don't know. Well, you talked a little bit about like if the move to the Xbox One, you would have to get 2 Xboxes and all that nonsense. So with that in mind, I think a lot of people are kind of wondering how, like, what kind of challenges do you face in the real world? I mean, you have children, you guys are married. You talked a little bit about kind of the Xbox widow feeling in the beginning. So, like, what is it like now having to run the website, have children, you have your daily lives that you have to run and keep managing and such. So,
Under control.
what's it like?
She doesn't have kids. First of all I know is they're savages.
That's all. Yeah. If you listen to
And
Rendo, that's all you'll hear.
And they all have one name. The other children only have the other children aren't named. There's only one with a name. Because that's all I ever hear Rendo talk about.
Oh, Donovan and the idiots, or the kids, or the savages, or the get the fuck upstairs.
Yep.
Yes. Or what the fuck do you want the DS for?
Yeah. Did you tell him about the DS?
Throw it.
Don't throw it. There you go. It's funny you say that.
You can give this will be a crucial segment because Heavy and I were at the same point in our lives. Well, I'm a little older, but we're both I guess you can still say newly married. I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but children will be down the road. So
that must be
this
amazing,
is like
being married without kids.
This is the life advice pep talk section. Impart us with your wisdom.
Impart you with my wisdom on how to balance everything. I guess that would be the way to go. The way to balance everything here. Well, kids go to bed at 8:30. That's a bonus. And the league really doesn't start until nighttime. When my kids are, if my kids are teenagers, holy, that would not be fun. However, they aren't, and they get to bed. But it is hard. I have to be up every morning to get these guys off to school. I have to. And you're stuck up, especially on executive on-call nights. You can be up till 1 a.m. listening to somebody rant about whatever their minor little problem is with the league that day, or whatever player said something mean to them. It's kind of like if you guys deal with these guys in this league for the most part, you'll be fine with kids because these guys are like a bunch of kids.
Well, that's how I've always looked at ownership, is just babysitting, basically.
Yeah, isn't that what we all say? As long as you're comfortable babysitting, you'll be fine being an owner or an executive or anything, really, because the executives really just babysit the owners and the owners babysit the players, and the big babysit circle jerk. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know how you men talk about things.
That was about it.
That's pretty much.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
You didn't say bro enough, or
I was gonna start off by hey bros, like I was gonna start the whole thing like that, but then I was like, no. I only say that like when I'm not around people. I act like more of an idiot.
When you're not being recorded.
Pretty much. Hey, I was pretty nervous here. Now I see how Halfman felt. You guys are celebrities or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you've seen Heavy's YouTube channel, but like the last video got like 60 hits, so.
Oh my god, no, I haven't.
50 of them were me.
I'll have to watch it now because, quite frankly, lately I've been getting into. I have this thing about because you're all guys on Xbox for the most part, so you all originally sound the same. Like looking at a bunch of people on, Rust, they're all bald and naked. Well, you guys are all bald and naked, but eventually I can pick up on, you guys have specific voices. Other people have voices I can recognize now, but it's pretty hard.
There's a couple of people who sound the same. Holy cow. Like on our team specifically, what was it? Boski, X Factor, and...
Well, not so much X Factor because he doesn't have that northeastern
accent.
thick,
Who am I
man.
thinking of then?
I think it's isn't BMX?
It's BMX, I think.
BMX is a little bit, and then it used to be Boski, and a couple seasons ago wasn't it Run? Didn't Run have a?
Yeah,
was he from the Northeast area as well?
But
I can't remember.
Yeah, but I can definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, we have it easy. Oh, that's the female voice, so
yeah. Number one question asked by men. Oh, are you a girl? Oh my god.
Are you a real girl?
It is sometimes hard to tell if it's a girl talking or if it's like a 13-year-old because like Xbox kind of just crushes everyone's voice into this monotonous or like especially when you get on this program, you have a lot more tone to your voice, whereas on Xbox everyone sounds like a robot.
Absolutely.
So. Well, at the beginning of the interview, you talked a little bit about how when you first joined one of the leagues, you were kind of always known as Rendo's wife instead of a real
Person.
person almost. Yeah, unfortunately. So is there any other, like, can you think of any other times, like, does it still happen even in a league where pretty much everybody knows each other for the most part? Do you have any like instances of discrimination against you being a woman in a sport that's obviously dominated by male? Not only is sport, but it's the fact that you're playing it on Xbox as well. So it's like you're double downing on the amount of testosterone you're going to encounter.
Oh yeah, it's like
playing NHL.
swimming through a thick jello-like substance of testosterone every night. But yeah, that sounds actually pretty disgusting now that I've said
Flexe
that.
knows what that's like.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah, of course I have. There's between even just everybody assuming that Rendo is in charge of things, even though I'm the commissioner, they still feel like Rendo is above me in some way. I like to remind people that's not the case in a rather rude manner, but you know, it is what it is. I've also had the players that, I mean, obviously we know we've had players in our league that go in the chat box and just like, wow, like go off like nut bars for no reason. We had someone that's done that to me and just like go off on me in the chat box when I haven't, you know me, I'm pretty easygoing about stuff. So, I mean, you know, you get the little nasty comments or the assumption that maybe you suck, which for the most part I can agree with. I'm not the best player in the world, but I'm really not as bad as maybe people expect a woman to be.
Have you ever considered changing your gamer tag and pretending like you're a dude and then like doing a big like Metroid reveal at the end and being like, I was a woman the whole time, you idiot.
That
Just
would
to
be
see
so
if
fun. Just to see if I would
like-
be treated differently.
Yeah, because I bet nobody would give a second thought to it, because I've played plenty of OTP games where people are like way worse than anybody in any league I've ever played in. So I don't see how your ability to play translates into you being a girl. But like you said, I think it just comes down to like, well, they know you're a girl, so they're just going to attribute your play to you being a girl instead of the other way around, if that makes any sense.
Right.
I don't know.
And
I've
I
talked
think-
myself into a circle.
I think in the end, it really is a minority that looks at me that way or feels that way. For the most part, most people are pretty easygoing about it, and they like the fact that I'm a girl. I'm kind of a positive, estrogen-filled little blurb in their day that maybe wouldn't have had that before, especially, you know, a bunch of guys on Xbox.
Yeah.
Definitely not getting a lot of estrogen there, so.
I get some from Canuck, but I have more contact with him, so.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately it seems like that when you pay attention to the media and someone likes the gaming press, you just hear, especially even in the gaming press itself, I mean, you just hear one horror story of another of creepy dudes and women just being, you know, mistreated and talked down to and treated as objects still. And I mean, it's unfortunate that in how far society has come that there's still areas that are still so behind, I guess, in how things are. And especially just the way the gaming community in general will react towards itself, towards developers, publishers, anyone. Yeah, exactly, anyone. It's unfortunate that is the mindset that it has. And I mean, it's
the curse of no consequences, and everyone's anonymous. It's like,
right,
you can get it. It's the Wild West. You can get away with just about anything. So
I mean, and this is somewhat related, but I can't I don't remember what I was reading, and I think this came up actually when I was at work, but it was I can't remember the woman's name, but she had the Kickstarter, and she was doing those videos on the tropes and women's tropes in video games and all that, and she's a feminist and pretty well known and documented, but of course that as soon as she started doing all that stuff, it was uproar, and internet basically lashed out and trying to gamers too, how slighted they felt and how this isn't right, and how much, and obviously I think you have to have a certain thicker skin when you're going to do something like that, because you're going to have people that are going to intentionally go out of their way to make your life hell or to target you because of that. But I think it's almost recently, what is it, the supposedly the hacker group Anonymous now, there's this one Twitter handle that's harassing her and slandering her, and it has like 4 followers, but supposedly that's they have anonymous support too. And now the one question they asked her is like, you have to ask yourself, are you going to want to put up with this 20, 30, 40 years in the future? We're not going to stop until you're done. And it's just like, man, it's just pathetic in a way, I guess.
Well, I mean, I just picture someone who's like, it's so weird to think that there's just some guy who like works at, I don't know, some office from 9 to 5 and then comes home and then gets on there. Well, it's probably a kid, but like the idea that somebody would just go, I think I'm going to go online and just fuck with people for like 3 hours and just make their life a living hell. Like there's something about that that's almost hard to believe, but it's funny that they're just really proving her point. It's like, oh no, you shared an opinion. Like you don't even have to agree with the opinion, but to just go out of your way and be like, you're wrong and you're stupid for thinking that, and you're, you know, all these things. And it's like, well, it's exactly what she's talking about, kind of, you know, because if a guy said, and like, imagine if a guy came out and said something about the way that males were portrayed in video games or something like that. I don't think a bunch of women would just go and like start bitching at him about it, or you know what I mean, like
trolling.
No, a bunch of dudes would go after him and tell him to man the F up and stop being a pussy. That's what would happen.
It just comes that guys are assholes is what it comes down to.
In the end, I mean, it's true. Like all these people who come on and heckle and have these nasty things to say, they're all like pretty horrible people for what they do. On the other hand, I mean, maybe this is just my opinion, but women, like if we're talking about women in general and women in these little, you know, cliques of male dominated society here, women who get up on their high horse and, you know, I mean, I understand a lot of women out there are oppressed in whatever way they are or whatever, but it's a little too much. These women who go up there and do that whole feminist rant and how we're all so mistreated as women and blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, I mean, so it kind of hurts the rest of the women to have women like that out there, because then every woman is a feminist. Every woman has some, you know, 5-hour speech about her life and her story.
Yeah. Well, it's like one step too far. It's like the one person who ruins it for everyone else.
There you go.
And you're just like, I can kind of agree with what you're saying, but you took it like one step too far, so I'm just going to back off and you can deal with whatever's going on over there with that. So
dig your own grave is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So with all that said, I do want to thank you for being on the show, taking time out of your busy day to talk to your loyal followers, GRHL. But I did want to we want to give you a chance to say anything and whatever you like to the GRHL, to whoever might listen to this. Anything that you want to say, now is the time. Let your voice be heard.
My voice be heard. I guess as commissioner, the things I would want to say are all things related to, you know, our league and how it's been progressing for the beginning of the season. I just like everybody to take a look back at the rules, take a look back at the previous seasons, and remember what we are and what we used to be. And, you know, we started this league hoping for, as much as you want a little bit of drama to keep things fun and feisty, we're drama free here. We don't want you guys bringing your shit to the chat box. We don't need 5-hour, you know, PMs about how somebody hurt your feelings. Like, you know, I don't know. I just want people to like go back to the way they were a couple seasons ago, where there was less drama, who had complaints, filed complaints appropriately, filed appeals appropriately. There was no, you know, people calling each other names in, well, outside of the usual amount of name calling. So I just want everybody to like take a chill pill, look back, relax, show up for your games, have fun, all that kind of stuff.
Good advice. Very good advice.
Yay.
Well, thanks again.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I was, like I said, nervous to be here, but glad I did. And you guys do put a lot of work into this, so support.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Rendo is fucking shit up in the league again, so Nell unfortunately had to leave abruptly, but we thank her for being on the show and for being the commissioner and doing all the dirty work. So,
And
Well,
you know,
we're
before you jump in too, you know, if anyone else has interest in, you know, possibly being a guest on here, I know we have plans on specific people we'd like to contact, you know, moving
we'll
forward.
find
But
you.
yes, we will find
We
you.
will find you.
But you know, you know, if you're not an asshat and you want to be
Or even if
interviewed,
you are.
or yeah, even if you are asshat, sometimes that's good too. So, you know, let us know and we'll make arrangements to get you on here, and
Yeah, if you have
can
something to say, don't just come on here because you want to like fuck around.
talk about poop and
Poop and Jello pudding pops.
you see. Oh, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby probably likes hard hitting questions.
Actually, he's gonna make us take this down when he finds out we just referenced him. So, what a jerk.
Yes.
So yeah, just let us know, and we will try and fit you in. We're not making any promises, but the show is quite busy, so we'll see what happens. Let us know, and we'll get you in. Maybe.
Now it's time for Heavy's hard hitting question.
Question. So if you've never listened to the show, shame on you. But each week I ask the show's guests and everyone basically listening a question relating to the league, NHL, the game, or the players and the community in general. So this week's question is, many of you are familiar with club building, the process of drafting and signing people that you play with in club outside of the GRHL. Some of you I know are frustrated by it. Others obviously swear by it and continue to do that. So do you think that club-built teams affect the league? And if so, how?
Bum, bum, bum. Well, the thing is, you're going to have, I mean, even no matter how a league is set up, either you do a bidding system or you do a draft or you do what, like how we do it with our free agency, you're going to have club building is going to happen. Or friend building, whatever you want to call it, it's going to happen. It's just going to be how exploitable it is or how much it can happen. And now, obviously, with our setup, yeah, it's happened because I mean, look, you can sign how many people to your team. So it's like, oh, I could sign 4 people from that I play club with. Now, the downside of that is, though, I mean, if you guys play well and dominate, you're going to have a pretty substantial fair base value. So eventually, you get to the point where you can't afford to, you know, sign all of your friends on your team, or unless you know your team itself is going to suffer extremely for it. But I mean, yeah, club built teams, I mean, definitely affect the league. You know, it could affect the league positively or negatively depending on how good the club is. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's always
true.
happening, and it's gone back to every league I've been in. I've known there's been club stuff. So I mean, I will say that we're looking in possible ways to change up or make additions to our free agency system to try to curb that behavior. But I mean, it's very, very early on, and when it comes time, we'll get other people involved in that decision. But I mean, it's just an idea that's getting tossed around now that we'd like to flesh out. But who knows how long that'll take? But I don't know. I mean, club building's good and bad. But I mean, it's going to happen, and I just don't think there's any one way you're going to be able to ever kind of fully
get rid of it,
purge it. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think I'm fine with it. I guess like you said, it kind of works itself out eventually anyway. The problem I have is kind of a byproduct of a club building team, and that's when somebody drafts or somehow picks up another player that in their mind, well, I was meant to play with blah 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 because they're my club, and then they refuse to play for you, or they play like shit, or they just change how they intended to play the game because, well, I didn't get put on the team that I wanted to be put on. And that, I mean, it's like that's like the most childish I think someone can be. Like, to me, that bothers me more than when somebody starts like name calling and stuff on the chat box, because like it affects a team in a way that you can't really do anything about, because like if they still show up, you can't just drop them. If they're playing like shit, you can't really complain because you picked them up, and you can't really prove something like that. So people who just refuse to play for a team in general like that really just piss me off. So I think that's the biggest problem I have with it.
Yeah, and I hate that too. And at least we have, there's a process. I mean, those guys can get released and blacklisted because they're not showing up, and then they won't be around again. But I mean, it's one thing too when the people like demand a trade, right off the bat too.
Yes.
I don't want to play here. And then the thing that to remember is, yes, the owner is encouraged to look for a trade, but if the owner doesn't want to trade you, they don't have to. And if you don't show up for your games, you're going to get released from the league. You won't be playing here at all.
Yep.
So, and I mean, that's the thing too, when it comes down to a point where you want to show up again. I mean, we keep records of why you were released. So, I mean, I can go back, and since I'm usually the guy that's going to contact you, I can go back and say, oh, look, you signed up but refused to play for the team. I mean, why do I want to let you back in here if that's the type of player you are?
Yep. So, yeah, just don't do it. Like, just don't be that dick. Playing for a club is fine, or playing for a team that's basically your club is fine. But if your plans get screwed up, don't be the dick who just ruins it for everybody else. So that's my advice, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
So that it looks like that wraps up our show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're nailing that right on the head there. That's the show.
That's what's happening right now. So next week we'll have trades will be open, so we'll talk about any moves that are made. We'll have our week 3 in review, obviously, which we always will for each show, and then there'll be some other stuff too, which is being highlighted by Flex.
Yes.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
You're making a color light show for my eyes. It's splendid. So for the GRHL, I am Heavy Metal Riff.
And I'm Fluxday, and I'd just like to add too, real quick, we'd also, love feedback on the show. So, I mean, if there's any changes you guys like to see on how we're doing this, or any comments, we'd love to hear it.
Content additions, something that you'd like to see.
Content additions. I mean, stuff that it kind of feels out of place here. I mean, we just kind of produced this as as best we can, and I think now we've got at least a format going on that we kind of stick to at least, and. Yeah, I mean, so it's good. Nothing else, it's good just to have feedback because at least people are enjoying the product that you're putting out there. So
yeah,
I mean, we put a lot of time into this, so it's nice to know that if you guys enjoy it or you think it sucks, I mean, it's just nice to know. So
yeah, and take the time.
We appreciate that.
Take the time to, like, if you're watching this on YouTube or something like that, take the time to subscribe, like, comment, whatever. Just let us know that you're out there. We like to see that you guys are watching it, so that's good. But a little participation never hurts either, and we would love it.
Yes. Yeah. So let's get out of here. Let's cue the music and get the.
We are leaving. Goodbye.
Yeah.